The other, I mean, this is big news. Terra Luna, which we talked about last week, talking about how interesting it was that they bought Bitcoin. Well, it utterly crashed this week in an epic fashion. The price I put down here, this was a couple days ago, went from $80 to 2 cents. Now it's even less than that. It's like 0.00003 or something. And the USD price is at like it's at like 15 cents. So it's even less than that 37 cents right there. So it's even crashed even harder. And it actually hurt the Bitcoin price because they had purchased some Bitcoin and then they liquidated that Bitcoin at a time when Bitcoin was already kind of hurting. And it made Bitcoin go down even more. And that's because they had already bought it and then they had to sell it to try to provide liquidity to these chains, to the stablecoin. So Bitcoin kind of got caught in the crossfire here, and it hurt its price pretty bad as well. But Bitcoin has kind of recovered from that. It went all the way down to like 25,000, but now it's sitting at about 30,000. But Terra has not recovered.
How much Bitcoin was sold off?
It was something like, I think, 3 billion.
Wow.
$3 billion worth.
So was it that action alone that caused Bitcoin to go down so much? Or
that was
it...
a big catalyst. I won't think it's the only factor, but I think it definitely did not help. Like, it probably wouldn't have went down to 25,000. It probably would have not done quite as bad. There was it definitely didn't help. That's for sure. It was pretty bad event.
And I'm sure it also triggered people to sell their stuff too, which it caused like a chain reaction.
Right, yeah. People were like freaking out. Like, oh, and then the Bitcoin price is going down. Oh, and then everybody starts selling. And they caused sell-offs across the entire space. A lot of people got freaked out by that. And a lot of people lost savings. I mean, I saw people on Twitter who tweeted that they had every dollar that they owned in Terra. And if that's actually true, that means they lost their entire life savings.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. It'd be a nightmare.
And I remember looking at it, and it had gone up, and I remember thinking about it and looking at it, just trying to understand it. I couldn't quite fully understand it, and it seemed weird to me. I was like, there's a token called Terra Luna or whatever, and then there's the Terra USD. And how it worked basically is, as people put their dollars into the Terra USD, the Terra Luna price goes up, and it creates these like little arbitrage opportunities where Luna can pump into USD if it needs to make it a dollar, and then USD can pump into Luna to make it go up. And like there's like this weird way that they play together, and to keep the price at a dollar supposedly, and then that didn't happen. You know, that's what happened. It depegged from the stable dollar that it was supposed to do. And then once the confidence was broken, a lot of people started taking money out of Terra USD, the stablecoin, and that caused a chain reaction to where Luna was trying to get it back to be pegged, and it was just not possible, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And anyways, there was about, I think, 6 trillion Luna minted. Like, it basically hyperinflated because there was this huge run on the Luna bank, if that makes sense.
Now, okay, like hypothetically, if no one had sold like their Terra USD, would it have caused it to crash the way it did?
I don't think so.
Okay. So it was just from the depegging, like it would have been able to recover from that.
Think of it like this. This is the way I think about it, to simplify things. Think about Terra Luna as like the Federal Reserve. It has the ability to pump money into the USD, into the stable dollar. And so as the value was going down, because people, and it depegged, it started this chain reaction, people freaking out, people taking more out. And then Luna's printing more Luna to try to pump up the Terra USD price, which is in turn hurting the price of Luna, which is basically what happens whenever there's printing of dollars. So it was like a run on the bank, and then they printed a bunch of money, Luna money, to try to do it, try to take care of it, and it didn't work out. It's basically, I would call this a Ponzi scheme, kind of a classic Ponzi scheme. It just happened to get really, really large, and it succeeded at being a Ponzi for longer than it should have. Because it was dependent on people not taking their money out.
Right, because if people lose confidence in it and they take their money out, then
it causes this spiral.
But okay,
that's what a Ponzi does. That's what happens in a Ponzi.
Right, but okay, like a regular bank, and everybody can't take their money out of the bank either, you know.
Well, you can argue our system is sort of a Ponzi. You can argue that the banking system. It's just there's a lot of trust in it, and people just kind of accept it. But it's true, if everybody took the money out of the bank, that would cause that bank to go out of business.
Right, and a bunch of people would, well, I think we have like regulations and stuff where it's like safeguarded, but if we didn't, then people would be out of money.
And that used to be that. It used to not have that safeguard. And it used to happen quite a bit. That happened in the Great Depression. They were run on banks, and a lot of banks went under.
Yeah.
And people lost their life savings. Like this.
So, like, well, I mean, why don't... I guess, like... What's the difference between, like, a bank and a Ponzi scheme? I don't know. And, like, is there a difference? There has to be some sort of technical difference.
Well, they are offering a service. So it's not a scam.
Right. Okay.
It is sort of a Ponzi scheme to a degree.
Well, the bank also isn't... Well, they do, like... guarantee you like interest or whatever.
Well, Luna did too. They guaranteed 20% a year.
Well, that's insane.
That should tell you it's a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
Scam, more like it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was a scam. I don't know if it was intentional.
It's hard to say.
What I'm saying though is, if everybody took their money out of a bank, then that bank would go under.
Yes.
So it's got Ponzi economics involved in it to a degree, but it's not necessarily a scam because they are offering some products that are useful, and it's more reasonable too. It's not saying we'll give you 20%.
And I would like a Ponzi scheme is in bad faith. A bank is not in bad faith.
No, and well, I mean. I agree with you, but you could argue that Terra wasn't in bad faith. They thought they were doing something good.
Right.
You could argue that.
I guess there could be Ponzi schemes where they think they're doing something. That's true.
There's varying degrees of it. Because there was, some thought put into it. It was just not sustainable. Because of 20% payouts is ridiculous. It requires new money. You have to keep getting new money in.
I think
whenever you have to get new money,
kind of makes it a Ponzi scheme where you're constantly searching for more investors.
But that's what banks are too, Clint. Banks do require new money. They have to keep getting money in.
Like, so if they didn't have any new clients, they would go out of business that way too.
If they didn't have money coming in, well, we have regulations now. Okay, here's the thing. Here's what makes it better. It's like a regulated banking product, which all kind of have Ponzi economics to it. It's also like saying, Social Security is a Ponzi. A lot of people say that too. Because it kind of is, because it requires taxpayers to pay into it to pay off the other people. That's sort of the same thing with banks. It requires people to keep their money in order to pay off other people. And it requires, because they give out loans and stuff, and they don't actually have all the money that they're saying you have. They don't actually have it all technically there. But what helps keep it from going under is the government forces banks to have a required amount of dollars actually in their reserves. So they have to have, I think it's like 30% of whatever their stated bank accounts are. They have to actually have that in cash at all times. But if it was ever a point in time where 31% of the money was taken out, they'd be screwed.
Right.
I mean, so you can argue it's a Ponzi. I don't know. I mean, but it's not. I guess it's like a what's the
I mean,
word?
a bank can't pull the rug out from under you.
Right? Yeah. It's not as bad. It's sort of an understood Ponzi that everybody's okay with.
Right.
I mean, you could argue the Federal Reserve is a Ponzi because it just keeps printing money, and that's how it keeps bailing stuff out.
Yeah.
You could argue that, but it's kind of stupid because they're in power, and that's sort of the system that's being propagated. Which I think it's good that if you're going to have banks doing this kind of stuff where they can lend your money out, you need it to be regulated because it is kind of scary that you can have a run on a bank. And if you didn't have it regulated, or at least some of the money guaranteed, that would be kind of scary.
Yeah, I think like banks are a situation where regulation is.
Right. Yeah, I think they definitely need it. And that's sort of why a lot of people are saying this was kind of a good thing because it's going to get the government to regulate stable coins quicker.
Yeah.
And maybe force them to act more like a bank.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have
that would be
any
a positive outcome.
They didn't have any U.S. dollars backing it at all.
I mean, I feel like if it's called Terra USD, you probably should have some.
Do it again? Oh,
like
yeah.
If USD's in the name.
The other ones are Tether and USDC are supposedly backed 1-to-1 with dollars. Supposedly. I don't really know if that's true or not, but they're supposed to be. But they keep their peg much better.
Well, they were backing it up with Bitcoin, and then they had to sell it all.
Well, they bought it just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I know, just a few weeks ago. Yeah.
And also I've heard there's some Bitcoin unaccounted for. As in, there's still some Bitcoin in their name, in the Terra LUNA Foundation's name. So this could have been a scheme to steal a bunch of Bitcoin.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's very strange. I think either that or they were trying to peg it to something. But for a stable dollar to be stable, because Bitcoin's not stable, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Yep. Well,
it got depegged and then it pegged everyone else.
Got wrecked. Oh yeah, there was a guy who got a Luna tattoo, by the way, 2 weeks ago. And he was a big CEO of like a big crypto company. And people know him really well. Mike Novogratz is his name. And he got a Luna tattoo 2 weeks ago. I guess he feels like an idiot.
Yeah, he must.
God. Ridiculous.